You eat something that never used to bother you, and an hour later, your stomach is bloated, achy, off. Or maybe it's not even your gut you notice first. It's your skin breaking out, or your joints feeling stiff for no clear reason. You've probably seen the phrase leaky gut online as the explanation for all of it. So is that actually what's happening? Or is it something else entirely? Here's the honest answer. Something real is happening in your gut lining, and it can absolutely change with age, stress, and diet. But the full story is more nuanced than most of what you've read, and that nuance actually matters for what you do next, because it changes what's actually worth spending your money and attention on. So let's separate what scientists broadly agree on from what's still genuinely being debated, starting with what your gut barrier actually is. Your gut lining is only one cell thick. Trillions of cells sit side by side, held together by structures called tight junctions. Think of them as tiny gates between each cell, controlling what's allowed to pass from your gut into your bloodstream and what isn't. In the early 2000s, a researcher named Alessio Fasano at Harvard and Massachusetts General Hospital discovered a protein that helps control how open or closed those gates are. He named it Zonulin. When Zonulin is released, those gates loosen, and certain triggers, like a component of gluten called gliadin or an overgrowth of certain gut bacteria, can cause that release. That much is well established. What happens next is where the story splits in two. It's also worth knowing that gliadin isn't the only trigger. An overgrowth of certain bacteria in the small intestine, sometimes called SIBO, and even intense, prolonged exercise or chronic psychological stress can transiently loosen those same tight junctions. This is a normal, adaptive system responding to real physiological signals. It's not inherently a malfunction. In celiac disease, this mechanism is thoroughly proven. Gliadin triggers zonulin release, permeability measurably increases, and this is the key part. It reverses on a strict gluten-free diet. That reversal is what actually demonstrates cause and effect, not just correlation. Inflammatory bowel disease shows a similar well-documented pattern of increased permeability, so that part isn't controversial at all for those specific conditions. Here's the part that is. The leap from your gut lining can become more permeable to leaky gut syndrome is secretly causing your fatigue, your skin, your joints, your brain fog. That broader claim doesn't have the same rigorous, peer-reviewed backing. And there's a second problem layered on top of it. Most of the at-home leaky gut tests sold online measure serum zonulin. But a widely cited 2020 review in the journal Nutrients, led by researcher Tim Vanuytsel, found that these commercial zonulin assays don't reliably measure what Fasano's original research actually described. They cross-react with other unrelated proteins. In plain terms, a positive result from one of those at-home kits is not a reliable diagnosis of anything. So if a commercially available test isn't something you can trust, does that mean there's nothing you can actually do here? Not at all, because the ingredients that support gut lining repair have their own separate evidence, regardless of how that diagnostic debate eventually settles. Your gut lining is one of the fastest renewing tissues in your entire body. The cells lining your small intestine, called enterocytes, are fully replaced every 3 to 5 days. That rapid turnover is actually good news. It means this tissue has real capacity to repair itself when it has what it needs to do the job. The amino acid those cells rely on most as fuel for that renewal is called L-glutamine. It's actually the primary energy source enterocytes prefer over glucose, which is part of why gut stress states can deplete it quickly. And one compound that's been studied directly for supporting the gut lining under stress is zinc carnosine, which appears to work through a different mechanism, supporting mucus production and acting as an antioxidant that limits further damage while repair is underway. In a human clinical trial published in the journal Gut, researchers gave healthy volunteers a common NSAID pain reliever known to increase gut permeability. and found that zinc carnosine measurably reduced that permeability increase compared to placebo. This is encouraging research, but it's important to keep it in perspective. The number of high-quality human studies remains relatively small, so this should be viewed as a promising area of research rather than a definitive treatment. Perhaps the strongest evidence supports something much simpler: eating enough fiber. When beneficial gut bacteria ferment dietary fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate. Butyrate provides fuel for the cells lining the colon and helps maintain the intestinal barrier. In other words, feeding your beneficial gut bacteria also helps nourish your gut lining. Good sleep, regular physical activity, managing chronic stress, avoiding unnecessary NSAID use when possible, and eating a balanced diet rich in whole foods all contribute to maintaining a healthy intestinal barrier. One final point is especially important. If you're experiencing persistent diarrhea, unexplained weight loss, blood in your stool, anemia, severe abdominal pain, or ongoing digestive symptoms, don't assume it's simply leaky gut. These symptoms deserve proper medical evaluation because they may indicate conditions requiring specific diagnosis and treatment. So, is leaky gut real? Increased intestinal permeability is absolutely real, and decades of research have clearly demonstrated it in conditions such as celiac disease and inflammatory bowel disease. What remains uncertain is whether leaky gut syndrome is the hidden explanation for the wide range of chronic symptoms often claimed online. The encouraging news is that your gut is remarkably resilient. When the underlying trigger is identified and addressed, your intestinal lining often has an impressive capacity to recover. Rather than chasing expensive tests or miracle cures, current research points toward a far more sensible approach. Support your gut with a healthy lifestyle, a fiber-rich diet, adequate protein, careful use of medications, and evidence-based medical care when needed. That's where the strongest science stands today, and where your time, attention, and money are most likely to be well spent. Next time, we're staying in the body but shifting focus entirely to something you can feel starting in your 50s, whether you've changed anything or not. The real reason you're losing muscle and what actually reverses it. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is the perfect time. Here on The Nutraceutical Scientist, we bring you the latest science on longevity, healthy aging, and evidence-based nutraceuticals, explained simply and practically so you can make informed decisions about your health. We publish new videos every Monday and Friday, and you'll find all the research references in the description below. Until we meet again on Monday, stay healthy, stay curious, and remember, every healthy choice you make today is an investment in the life you'll live tomorrow.